And good evening, everybody. We are live in Cleveland, where Donald Trump will appear on stage tonight and give the most important speech of his life. I'm Anderson Cooper. Welcome to our viewers in the United States and around the world. Donald Trump about to face a huge audience and an enormous challenge on this closing night of the Republican National Convention. The presidential nominee expected to deliver a message of unity just hours after his party's divisions were on public display in this hall when Ted Cruz refused to endorse him. Tonight, Ivanka Trump will help Republicans try to keep the focus on electing her father, which introduces him, lending her star power to the convention finale. This is Donald Trump's night. There's no doubt about it. We'll be watching from the studio in our skybox on the other side of the arena. Wolf Blitzer is there. Wolf?
Anderson, this has been an unconventional convention, as Trump promised, but not always because he planned it that way. We'll get another unprecedented moment tonight. We're told Peter Thiel, a Silicon Valley tycoon and Trump supporter, plans to declare to Republicans that he's openly gay and chide the GOP for its refusal to embrace LGBT rights. This, as delegates still are reeling from that unprecedented Ted Cruz drama. Today, Cruz remains defiant, defending his decision to speak at Trump's convention, but not support him. Jake Tapper is with us tonight, will be with us all night. What are you looking for as we go forward?
First of all, let's just take a moment. 1 year ago today, if you had told anyone, except for maybe Donald, Eric, and Don Jr., Trump, and Ivanka, that we were going to be here and Donald Trump was about to accept the Republican nomination for the presidency, beating what was empirically one of the most gifted and deep benches of Republican governors, senators, and otherwise, to run for president in generations, there are very few people that would have believed you. And not only did he do it, he did it overwhelmingly, and he did it while sometimes, often, at odds with the Republican establishment, and he did so by breaking almost every single rule that people like you and I thought were fairly established rules. It is an unbelievable moment in American history.
It certainly is. I'm not even sure Donald Trump himself believed that he was going to get the Republican presidential nomination. We got a lot more to discuss. Our political team is spread out across this huge arena. Let's go to see now Sarah Murray. She's on the convention floor for us right now. Sarah, what are you anticipating?
Well, Wolf, I spoke to someone close to Donald Trump today who says it is critical that after what we've seen in this convention, Donald Trump delivers a solid speech tonight. But this person said Ivanka Trump's speech might be just as important as her father's tonight. She can offer a humanizing perspective. She can flesh out who he is as a man. That was their main goal of this convention, and it is something that has been overshadowed throughout the week by controversy after controversy. Now, in talking to this person, of course, the goal is for Donald Trump to deliver a speech that they say is presidential, is steady and strong. But even people close to him say there is still a little heartburn. There are still lingering doubts. You never know if Donald Trump could set off a firestorm because, according to this person, of course Donald Trump could always go off script. Wolf?
All right, Sarah, I want to go to Jim Acosta, also here on the convention floor. Jim, what are you hearing?
Wolf, getting to what Sarah was just saying, yes, I talked to a source inside the Trump campaign who said that the main worry inside the campaign at this point is this: can Donald Trump stick to the script? It has been a challenge for him throughout this campaign, and there are Republicans, high-level Republicans in this party who have been clamoring for discipline. Now, we do know that Donald Trump will be delivering roughly a 45-minute speech. He will use teleprompters. He used to mock Hillary Clinton for using those teleprompters. But after those calls for discipline, he started using them himself. And you talk to people inside the Trump campaign, they will say he's gotten better at this. But I talked to another Trump campaign source, Wolf, who said, you know, after this week that they've had, a week that some inside the campaign will acknowledge has been bumpy, it is very important, critical that Donald Trump deliver a strong performance tonight, Wolf.
All right, Jim Acosta, thanks very much. Dan Abash, you're on the floor as well. This place already is rocking.
It sure is. This is the energy that we normally see in campaigns. And just to dovetail off of what Jake said at the top of the show, if you would have told these people here and across the floor where we are that they would be supporting a presidential nominee for the GOP who at one time was for abortion rights, was for universal health care, and for a whole host of other liberal issues that were non-starters for even the most qualified of candidates in the past, they would have told you no way. But here we have a lot of people dancing in the aisles ready to unite behind Donald Trump. And I think that's something that frankly surprised me walking through the aisles here, talking to scores of delegates all week long. I expected more division. I expected more reluctance. And even the people who I've spoken to who supported Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio or John Kasich from the get-go, most of them say that, you know what, we're Republicans, we want to beat Hillary Clinton, and we're going to get behind Donald Trump. It's a self-selecting crowd. A lot of people who said were never Trumpers didn't show up, but these are important people for Donald Trump. They seem excited, and they're going to go home, and they're going to work for it.
All right, Dana, thank you. Jake, Jerry Falwell Jr., who early endorsed Donald Trump, he's going to be our first speaker.
The ability of Donald Trump, who those of us who lived in the Northeast know, in the 80s and 90s was a tabloid king because of his personal life, one that probably wouldn't have passed muster with Reverend Falwell. The ability of Mr. Trump to win over Christian conservatives, voters and leaders in this primary season has been one of the most remarkable things that has been part of this campaign. He has not led the lifestyle that one would typically assume evangelical conservatives would support, and yet he has convinced them that the system is so messed up and that he wants to be a good Christian. And he has won them over, most of them.
Yeah, the evangelical support he got, especially in those southern states, helped propel him to win the nomination.
Absolutely. And while there has been a great deal of suspense, last night we all wondered, what is Ted Cruz going to say? I have to say the suspense I'm feeling right now is, what is Donald Trump going to say tonight? Is he going to rise to this moment? I think that there are a lot of people out there, a lot of political experts who acknowledge that this could be a very, very tight race, and Donald Trump could theoretically win. He could be the next president. Will he rise to the moment? That's a big question.
It's probably, I'm sure it's the most important speech he's got to give. But let's listen in to Jerry Falwell Jr., who's our first speaker.
Thank you. I am so honored and humbled to be here tonight. In 1984, my father stood at this convention and offered the opening prayer before our party's candidate, Ronald Reagan, went on to accept the nomination and win in a landslide. A little over 30 years later, I stand here with the sincerest prayer that history is about to repeat itself with the election of Donald J. Trump. You know, most of our nation's founders had strong faith, as I do, in our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. My family has lived in Virginia since the 1600s and in the Lynchburg, Virginia area since 1834. My wife, Becky, is a descendant of George Washington's family. Every day I drive past Poplar Forest, the summer home of Thomas Jefferson, who wrote in the Declaration of Independence, "We are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." Our founding fathers envisioned a government that existed only to protect these God-given rights, and a nation governed by citizen legislators. The most effective politicians were never career politicians, but surveyors, architects, ministers, farmers, businessmen, and even actors who were successful in the private sector before serving in government. Donald Trump follows in this rich tradition. He has created jobs for thousands and is one of the greatest visionaries of our time. I first supported Mr. Trump after I spent 20 years as a young lawyer working with my father to restore Liberty University to financial health. Since 2007, Liberty has become the largest and most prosperous Christian university in the world. And I am convinced that Donald Trump can work that same magic for a nation with $19 trillion in debt. But my family and I have grown to love and respect the Trumps for other reasons. We have never met such a genuine and loving family. I truly believe Mr. Trump is America's blue-collar billionaire. He is down to earth. He loves America and the American people. He is a true patriot and a champion of the common man. Mr. Trump has added a plank to this party's platform to repeal IRS rules sponsored by Lyndon Johnson in 1954, barring churches and nonprofits from expressing political free speech. Conservative universities and churches, however, have been investigated, while authorities have too often turned a blind eye toward liberal groups, including universities where left-wing ideology is so pervasive that they have in effect become Democratic voter indoctrination camps. Trust me, the repeal of the Johnson Amendment will create a huge revolution for conservative Christians and for free speech. We are at a crossroads where our first priority must be saving our nation. We must unite behind Donald Trump and Mike Pence. If you are a conservative, a decision not to vote or to vote for a third-party candidate is a de facto vote for Hillary Clinton. If Hillary Clinton is allowed to appoint the next few Supreme Court justices, that in itself could be a fatal blow to our republic. On the other hand, a vote for Donald Trump is a vote to uphold the Second Amendment right to bear arms. A vote for Trump is a vote to stop Iran, a nation committed to the destruction of the State of Israel, from becoming a nuclear power. A vote for Trump is a vote to appoint conservative, pro-life justices to the Supreme Court. You know, in the days before my father passed away in 2007, he joked with CNN that he dreamed that Chelsea Clinton had interviewed him about the three greatest threats facing this nation. He replied, those three greatest threats are Osama, Obama, and your mama. Well, Osama is now gone. Obama has 6 months left in his term. And the only way to make America great and one again is to tell Chelsea's mama, you're fired. And the only way to do that is to elect Donald Trump and Mike Pence, President and Vice President of the United States. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
From Maricopa County in Arizona, please welcome Sheriff Joe Arpaio.
Thank you. Thank you, Arizona and Chairman Robert Graham. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You know, I have spent 55 years in law enforcement. 55 years. Have always regarded my work, mission is critical, but my most important mission has just begun to help elect Donald Trump, President of the United States. The stakes are high. We need a strong leader who will stand up for America and put the interests of her citizens first. Unfortunately, we are losing the battle. We are the only country in the world whose immigration systems puts the needs of other nations ahead of ours. We are more concerned with the rights of illegal aliens and criminals than we are with protecting our own country. That must change. We need a leader who will protect our border and enforce our laws, because a nation without borders and a nation without laws is no nation at all. And now, more than ever, we must have respect for the police. We must give them the tools and the support they need to do their jobs. The highest levels of government must have our backs as they risk their lives every single day to perform their jobs and protect our citizens. As someone who for 35 years has been a top law enforcement official, living and working on both sides of the border, I can tell you firsthand about the dangers of illegal immigration and drugs. We have terrorists coming over our border, infiltrating our communities, and causing massive destruction and mayhem. We have criminals penetrating our weak border security system and committing serious crime. I am supporting Donald Trump because he is a leader. He produces results and is the only candidate for president ready to get tough in order to protect Americans. I have fought on the front lines to prevent illegal immigration, and I know Donald Trump will stand with me and other proud of Americans to secure our border. Donald Trump will build the wall. And restore law and order and keep drugs and illegal immigrants from entering into our country. You know, I will never forget Donald Trump and what he did for my wife. I have been married to Ava for 59 years. And during the campaign, she was diagnosed with cancer. Just before going on national TV, Donald Trump called my wife and talked to her for 5 minutes. In subsequent trips, he never forgot to think of my wife and call her. He did not have to get my support through his kindness to my wife because I was already hooked. Let's elect a leader who will stand up for America and protect our border and support law enforcement and the military and in doing so, unite our country. Let's elect Donald Trump. Thank you.
This final night of the Republican convention starts off with two very strong statements of support for Donald Trump. Jerry Falwell Jr., Sheriff Joe Arpaio. Conservatives, they made no doubt about it. They want Donald Trump to be the next president of the United States. We have a special guest.
We do. We have with us the campaign chairman for the Trump for President campaign, Mr. Paul Manafort, who's here. Thank you for stopping by. We appreciate it. Congratulations on making it.
Thank you.
To this night.
It's a great night.
What can we expect tonight? I was talking to Senator Tom Cotton earlier tonight. He's a supporter, and he says that he hopes that Mr. Trump will be magnanimous and inspire the country. Will he do that?
Well, I think he's going to be inspiring tonight. The speech is a very personal speech. He was involved in all of the details of the speech. He had a vision of what he wanted, an idea of what he wanted to say, and I think the final product, it turned out exactly the way he wanted to say it. So he's excited about presenting it tonight.
Is there going to be a part in the speech where he reaches out to any skeptics that might be here? There are obviously supporters of Ted Cruz, Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, et cetera, people who are not necessarily fully sold yet.
I think this convention is fully sold, and I think the Republican Party is coming together. You know, Donald Trump felt that every one of the candidates who ran for president should have an opportunity to speak to this convention. And he invited all of them to speak and asked for nothing back in return. He thought that their service as candidates was enough. And you had many candidates step forward and speak at this convention and indicate their support for him. You've seen the congressional Republicans, both in the House and the Senate, come together. You've seen governors come together. So the party's united. We feel that going into the general election now, his speech tonight is going to speak to the nation, not to the Republican Party. The primary process is over. He's the nominee. He won by record numbers. And now he's focusing on the broader message to America.
Well, that's the question, I think, because I spoke with a Republican official today who was very worried. He has polling indicating that married white women, which is a group that Republicans typically win, married white women right now are with Hillary Clinton, not with Donald Trump. This is a group that can swing back and forth in an election, and there's still a lifetime to go. But there are skeptics out there. Is he going to change his message in any way to try to appeal to these undecided voters, skeptical voters?
His message is appealing to the undecided voters. The number one issue in America today is jobs. The number two issue is security. For both of those issues, Donald Trump has got a very strong record on and contrasts very, very clearly with Hillary Clinton, who's been a part of the establishment for the last 25 years. People want change. They're blaming Washington for the gridlock. They're blaming the establishment for creating high taxes and having jobs leave the country. And they're very worried about not only the terrorists coming into this country, but their own neighborhoods as well. Donald Trump has been speaking to those issues. We think the issue agenda clearly sets up well against Hillary Clinton. And tonight he's going to be talking about those contrasts.
One of the things that we've heard in the Republican convention has been about crime in America. Now, crime, obviously, violent crime, horrific, but just empirically, according to FBI statistics, crime rates have been going down for decades. How can the Republicans make the argument that somehow it's more dangerous today when the facts don't back that up?
People don't feel safe in their neighborhoods. I'm not sure what statistics you're talking about, but I know for a fact the information
FBI
we
statistics.
see. Well, the FBI certainly is suspect these days after what they just did with Hillary Clinton. But as far as crime in the neighborhoods is concerned, people don't feel safe. They're not safe in their neighborhoods. And the crime that you see is because no one feels as if the system is protecting their interests. We think it's an issue that's contrasted very strongly with the Obama House and what Clinton stands for, and we're going to be talking about it tonight.
I wasn't talking about feelings. I was just talking about the facts of actual violent crime. But let me ask you, because you've talked about when Richard Nixon ran as a law and order candidate very successfully in 68, 72, are we going to hear that kind of tone and tenor on the subject of crime?
I think you're going to hear Donald Trump's version, not Richard Nixon's version.
No, of course, but those themes, I mean.
Well, the themes of fear in the neighborhoods and of terrorism, those are themes that are generic to today. And Donald Trump is going to be talking about things in today's context, not 68 or 1980 or anything else.
You also know that a concern among Republican voters has been reaching out to Latino voters, and according to recent polls, that's an area where Mr. Trump is struggling. When George W. Bush ran for president, there was actually like a Latino-themed evening. That has certainly not been the case here. What are you going to do either tonight in the speech or going forward to try to reach out to Latino voters?
We've now moved to the stage of the campaign where national polls aren't what's important anymore. It's the state polls. And when you look at the important battleground states and you look at the composition of support that Donald Trump has, his numbers in Hispanic voting is much higher than it is on the national level. So we're not looking at national polls anymore. We're looking at state by state. We feel that he will exceed the numbers in the Hispanic community that he has to get in places like Ohio and Pennsylvania, Florida. And we're confident that as the campaign progresses, the issues that are important to the Latino and Hispanic communities are issues that contrast very nicely for us.
Let me bring in my colleague, Rick Blitzer.
Paul, the Cruz speech last night, how was Donald Trump personally impacted, affected by it? You've spoken to him, I'm sure, throughout the day.
He was disappointed by it. I mean, he was disappointed by Senator Cruz's presentation. But his attitude is, he was the one being magnanimous. He invited Senator Cruz to speak. If Senator Cruz made a decision that Donald Trump would have done differently. But again, Donald Trump feels that the party is uniting around him, and he's moved on.
What about this morning when Cruz said, "You can't expect me to endorse someone who went after my wife, went after my father"? This is very personal for him. He made that point this morning.
Again, as far as we're concerned, we're no longer involved in a primary against Senator Cruz. We're talking about the general election. Donald Trump invited Cruz to speak at the convention. He's moved on.
And the introduction tonight that Donald Trump is going to get from his daughter. Tell us a little bit about what we should anticipate.
Well, Donald Trump is very proud of his children. And each night he's had extreme pride as he's watched his wife and his daughter, Tiffany, and Donald and Eric talk to the American people. And he's proud of Ivanka, too. And it's going to be a very emotional moment.
Can you shed some more light on this New York Times interview that Mr. Trump gave in which there were two things that I think were controversial. One was a suggestion that he wouldn't necessarily uphold NATO obligations. One of the obligations to our NATO allies is if one is attacked, all is attacked. I'll get to the second one first. But if you could talk about that, because it seemed as though he was saying, maybe I will, maybe I won't.
Donald Trump has said this recently, several months ago, that as far as he's concerned, he didn't think NATO was living in the modern times and needed to update its mission. And he also said that the NATO members have got to carry their fair share. What he was talking about in the New York Times was a part of that yesterday.
But if the NATO members don't pay their fair share, and I understand many people, including President Obama, share the view that NATO members need to kick in, and there is this obligation leading up to 2% at the very least in terms of dues and contributions. But is he saying that if they don't do that, the United States won't feel obligated to uphold the NATO treaty?
The difference between Donald Trump and President Obama is very stark. President Obama drew a line in the sand on Syria. He's saying that NATO doesn't meet their obligations, but there's no impact beyond his words. Donald Trump is a leader who, when he says something, he means it. That leadership will have an effect on the world. It'll make it a safer place. It'll get NATO more engaged in the way they need to be engaged. And that's what he's talking about.
One other thing that I thought was striking in that interview is normally we hear Republican presidents talk about the notion of American exceptionalism, shining city on a hill, Ronald Reagan said. Democratic presidents, including John F. Kennedy, have said similar things, talking about America as a moral and ethical exemplar in the world. But Donald Trump said something very differently, saying that the United States has no right to lecture Turkey and President Erdogan there when he's oppressing his people, because look at us and look at what we're going through, meaning some police officers have been killed tragically.
Well, there's a difference between nation building, what Donald Trump is talking about, thinking the United States shouldn't have a role in, and which he thinks is part of the problem that's caused in the world today, and having a firm role of leadership in the world. Donald Trump will be a strong leader. Donald Trump will make it clear where America stands, and through his leadership, the world will be a safer place. President Obama has not been very strong. The world doesn't respect the United States anymore, and that lack of leadership is what's caused the crisis in the world.
I know you got to run. You got a lot of stuff coming up tonight. Paul Manafort, thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you, sir. Wolf. Thank you,
to see you. Good luck tonight.
Very much.
Thank you.
Anderson, over to you.
Yeah, Wolf, Jake, thanks very much. Here with our panel. The next speaker we're going to be bringing you is Brock Mueller, motivational speaker, a small businessman from Ohio. But we heard just Paul Manafort speaking about what to expect from Donald Trump tonight. The stakes for Donald Trump are extraordinarily high. He has come a very long way, but he still has a long way to go. And tonight is a critical first step.
Well, this is the opportunity that you get as a candidate to speak to the largest audience that you'll be able to address between now and the election, other than in debates when you don't have a clear shot. So this is a very important night for Donald Trump. And one of the questions is, does he reach out and try and broaden his constituency, or is he going to double down on the theory that there are enough votes who respond to immigration to law and order and so on, that he can win a general election that way.
As a Trump supporter, what do you want to hear from the candidate? Do you want to hear basically the issues that got him here in the first place, building a wall and else?
Sure. I want to hear him talk about being tough and getting America back in shape, but I also want to hear about compassion all the way around. I mean, you mentioned the LGBT community. We had the situation in Orlando. I hope he says something about that. I think he should talk about the kind of people that he reaches out when he comes to my neck of the woods in Pennsylvania. People who are not famous, they're not well known, they don't live in the New York-Washington corridor, and to a large degree, I think they feel left out of the national conversation, and he has appealed to them, and I think that's helped him.
Jerry Falwell Jr. just a moment ago called Trump the blue-collar billionaire, and I think that if he wants to broaden his base, he should, as Jeffrey is saying, talk about the issues that will appeal to those Americans who are undecided in areas like the Rust Belt, where he believes he has an opportunity to win some states.
This is so transformational. I mean, the phrase you just used, the Rust Belt, I mean, this is a phrase that's been around for decades, but no one stopped to think, why are we using it in the first place? How did these places get to be rusty? And that's one of the things that I think he addresses with the trade issue, and that's why he's got support.
It's interesting, Van. One of the things that Jake was asking Paul Manafort about is one of the lines that we know Donald Trump is going to talk about is about crime and fear. Paul Manafort saying people, whatever the FBI statistics, crime's actually been going down for quite some time now. It's at a very low level compared to what it once was. Paul Manafort says, well, people don't feel that way, and I don't really trust the FBI statistics.
Well, I do think that the questions of safety and security, whether it's from crime or police violence or terrorism, those are hot issues, and you got to figure out what your response to that's going to be. But I was really surprised to hear Manafort poo-poo his standing with the Latino community. You had Sheriff Joe Arpaio out there, and the stuff that he said is so heartbreaking. He described the undocumented population as only criminals. What the reality is, the entire agricultural sector of America is populated by people who do not have papers. You ate food today touched by the hands of undocumented workers. Our service sector is overwhelmingly people who are undocumented. If you got somebody in the hospital, their bedpan may have been changed today by somebody without papers. Silicon Valley has undocumented people. The app you use today. So to tell the entire country that your candidate's view of undocumented people is only that they're criminals and that they are dangerous, I just think is so heartbreaking. And if he feels differently, he should say something different. Because Sheriff Joe did a terrible disservice to the country tonight.
He has consistently said something different. And I know that the Democrats and the left like to balkanize society into groups. You have the Latinos, you have the blacks, you have the whites. They balkanize society. But what Donald Trump's going to say tonight, according to the New York Times, is that he's a champion of the forgotten. There is a sense of worry in this country, a sense of fear that transcends race, it transcends socioeconomic status. It is about feeling secure in your home, economically and from a security perspective. And when we just heard Mark Burns say all lives matter has been a consistent theme coming out of this convention. We need to unite in the themes of safety and the economy, and we are going to hear Donald Trump say just that.
I didn't hear that from Sheriff Joe. I didn't hear that from Sheriff Joe.
I'm expecting Trump's policies to sound much different than we've heard them sound in this campaign tonight. I assume he'll hit the same notes. What I am interested in is tone. We know he's reading off a teleprompter tonight. That's not his favorite thing to do. As Ted Cruz just pointed out yesterday, the party is still divided. And despite some good efforts at uniting, there are still Ted Cruz voters out there. Is Donald Trump going to get on this stage like Frank Sinatra and say, I won and I did it my way, and sort of rub salt in the wounds and exploit that division? Or is he going to come out magnanimously and say, I want all of you to come aboard. Ted did a great job, and let's move on now.
I think thus far there have been two conventions here, Monday and Tuesday night versus what we saw last night. The tonality of Monday and Tuesday night may have appeased this base. I don't think it plays in the country at large. I want to see to whom is he speaking tonight, these folks or the folks at home.
And you're watching a special edition of AC 360. Brock Mueller is a motivational speaker, small businessman from Ohio. In 2007, he was severely injured in a car accident, killed his father and his brother's girlfriend. His brother is a Michigan offensive lineman, Elliot Mueller, who actually rescued him from the wreckage. He wasn't given much of a chance of ever walking again. We will see him tonight out on this stage. Obviously, this is somebody who Donald Trump wanted to come out here and address this crowd. Do we know, Nia, much about Ivanka Trump's introduction? In fact, we're just getting Brock Mueller just coming out now. Let's listen out.
Brock Mueller.
Christmas Eve, 2007. My parents, my younger brother Elliot, his girlfriend Hollis Reeker, and I were driving to church. Out of nowhere, a car ran a stop sign, crashing into us. My father, my hero, David Paul Mueller, and Hollis died that night. I endured 8.5 hours of surgery. When I awoke, the surgeon came into my room with more devastating news. My spinal cord damage was about the worst she had ever seen. She said that I would likely never walk again, and that even a 1% chance was overly optimistic. But that 1% was all I needed. Through it all, I had faith in Jesus Christ. I believed in myself and strived to make that 1% a reality. Truthfully, God made that 1% a reality. His will, not mine. He blessed me with football coaches, Rich and Mike, who gave me a fighting chance. His blessings enabled me to graduate from the Ohio State University. And I went on to be cheered by University of Michigan fans as I led the Wolverines onto the field. He blessed me with my beautiful wife, Haley. We walked down the aisle together. He gave me countless other blessings. This very moment, for me, is a testament to God working all things for the good. And guess who else was told that he had a 1% chance? A company that analyzes polling data for CNN predicted last year that Donald Trump had a 1% chance of winning the Republican nomination for president. Mr. Trump, welcome to the club. I defied the odds, but I couldn't do it on my own. Donald Trump can't do it alone either. He needs our help and support. Just as Michigan was willing to adopt a Buckeye, for a cause greater than ourselves, we can unite behind Donald Trump to make America one again. Now, I want to turn it over to a fellow Ohio State graduate who really knows how to unite a team, Coach Bobby Knight.
I'm proud to be a part of Team Trump, working toward making America the greatest there is. As a coach, my main objective was to win, and I know Donald Trump will always have winning on his mind.
Still ahead, what will Donald Trump say tonight in this, the most important speech of his life? We're standing by for the speech that could help determine whether he wins the White House. And could Ivanka Trump's remarks tonight leave Republicans wishing she were on the ticket? We'll be right back.
A great business needs a stunning website. And with Wix.com, you can do it all by yourself. Wix.com makes it easy to look amazing online, no matter what type of business you're in. Show off your images in a beautiful gallery. Grow your contact list and get all your social media in one place, just the way you want. Your customers are going to love it. So, what are you waiting for? Show the world what you can do. Go to Wix.com and create your stunning website today. It's easy and free.
Welcome back to the special edition of AC 360, the final night of the Republican convention. On this stage tonight, Donald Trump has a powerful platform to share his vision for America and work to try to unite his party and the nation as the Republican choice for president. Coming up, we're about to hear from U.S. Representative Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee, also Governor Mary Fallon of Oklahoma, part of a concerted attempt to reach out to women tonight. Ivanka Trump will also be introducing her father, no doubt also trying to reach out to women voters throughout the country. A lot to talk about with our panelists. We await U.S. Representative Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee. Is it clear? I mean, Ivanka Trump clearly is going to try to reach out, appeal to women as she has throughout this campaign.
She is, and I think what she's going to try and do is put a more personal tone here. You know, her brothers talked about their father, the businessman, what he can do for the country. She'll do that as well. But Ivanka is somebody who always talks about him in a more personal way. Maybe she'll tell a story or two that's been kind of missing from this convention. The other thing, in addition to talking about women, she's a businesswoman, as you know, a very successful one. She'll probably also talk about the fact that she would never support somebody whom she regarded as either a racist or a sexist, and she'll talk about the person she knows growing up as only a child can do, after all. And she's so popular, and she's kind of an enigma to people. We don't hear a lot from her. She just sort of introduces him very often. She's a very well-spoken woman, very impressive, and I think that's why he wanted her to introduce him.
The energy in the room tonight, I mean, this is what we've come to expect from political conventions. I mean, it certainly has built up to this night, which is probably the most electric night as people, I mean, everybody wants to be in here tonight to hear Donald Trump.
Right. I mean, this is what conventions are all about in a subtextual sense. You're going to have platform fights, rule fights, candidate disagreements, but at the end, this is exactly the scene you want to see, and we're seeing it.
U.S. Representative Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee, first elected to Congress in 2002, the first woman in the state to win a congressional seat in her own right.
Hello there, Tennessee. And hello to everybody here tonight, and to all of you who are watching us at home on iPhones and on Twitter. Welcome. I have a question for you. Do you want to help make America one again? Let me hear you. All right. You know, we have all had enough of bloated budgets, unkept promises, and pointless red lines. We've had enough division and enough heated rhetoric that serves to only drive a wedge between us and our neighbor. Enough of seeing our 401ks get smaller, our bills get bigger, our taxes go up, and our paychecks shrink. In short, the American people have had it. Yes, and they are ready for change. They are ready for someone to take the reins and bring us together. There is someone that can get the job done, or as Larry the Cable Guy would say, let's get her done. There's someone who can come in ahead of schedule and under budget, who's read the specs, has seen the bottom line, negotiated the cost, and built something to last. A leader who knows that this country is not full of assets to be managed, forgotten, or deleted. Our nation is full of citizens who want a leader who knows the sure route to prosperity, who inspires, who knows that leadership is a hard-fought verb and not a subject line in an email. And that is why I am asking all of you to join me tonight in electing Donald Trump as President of the United States. Donald Trump has the skills required to lead this nation, a diverse nation, and he can help our people achieve greatness. He believes in the American dream because he has lived the American dream. You know, the desire for greatness is not new. President Lincoln stood right here in this very city 155 years ago with a call for us to bind together or perish apart. Listen to his words. If all do not join now to save the good ship of the Union this voyage, nobody will have a chance to pilot her on another. And again, we find our nation in desperate need of true leadership, in desperate need of unity. The last 8 years have really been a challenge to our national and our household budgets, to our Constitution, and to the men and women who give their lives and their sacred honor to protect that Constitution and to protect us. We know that Donald Trump is a leader who has seen challenges. He's learned his lessons, solved problems. He has delivered results. Some of our nation's greatest leaders have been people who have worked in the real world, who know firsthand how cumbersome rules and unnecessary regulations get in the way of greatness. I want a president who knows that leadership is not as it appears, but is as it performs, who has seen something through from beginning to completion, who looks at the mundane and sees magnificence. After all, that's the magic of this country, that everyday people with big ideas and big dreams and the drive to complete them, not only can they change a skyline, they can change the world. Leadership is not about lines on a resume. Gender, race, zip code, pedigree, lineage, hurt feelings are not qualifiers for leadership. Leadership is a record of performance and accomplishment and team building. Now that is leadership that you can trust. We Americans are bound together by the shared desire for faith, family, freedom, hope, and opportunity. We want a president who believes that you, not Washington, knows best, who believes that you have the right to pursue your version of the American dream. I know you believe, I do too, that America is on the edge of great and mighty things. We need a President Donald Trump who understands this, is about freedom and freedom's causes, who will choose to unite us, not divide us. So let me ask you another question. Are you with me? Are you with Trump-Pence 2016? All right, together we can get the country building, working, see jobs come back, our communities grow, and see leaders actually lead. And together with you And with Trump-Pence 2016, we will be great again. We will be one again. Thank you. God bless.
Please give a warm welcome for Governor Mary Fallin.
Oklahoma loves New York, too. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, America, I have a question. Are you ready for change? Me, too. All right. I grew up in Tecumseh, a small town in Oklahoma. It was one of those all-American towns where everyone watches high school football on Friday nights and neighbors take care of neighbors. In Tecumseh, we understood poverty, but it wasn't a destiny that was inevitable. We were optimistic about our future, and we knew we could succeed with hard work, a good education, and faith in God. There weren't very many opportunities for young women, but we did have a great role model, a woman mayor, my mom. She taught me if I worked hard, I could be anything. And I took that lesson to heart and eventually became the first female governor of the state of Oklahoma. You know, in my community, there was a sense of optimism and determination that our community and our country could be better for everyone. And even at a time when the shadow of institutional discrimination fell over much of our country, there was no shortage of African American heroes. Black Oklahomans like civil rights leader Clara Luper, who was leading sit-ins and successfully integrating schools across our state and winning the fight for respect and opportunity. So when I look back on my childhood, my America, I don't see a perfect place, but we were united by a simple belief that no matter who you were or where you came from, better days were ahead for America. Today, I'm afraid we're losing that sense of unity and optimism, not just in towns like Tecumseh, but across this land. Our country is divided, our people are afraid, and our spirits are nearly broken. But we can't lose that hopelessness and have it become the new normal. In America, we won't. You know, I believe the American people are longing for the American dream where they can just get a fair shake in life and an opportunity to succeed. We must make America one again and restore the confidence in the strength of our nation. And it's no secret, Donald Trump is bold, tenacious, courageous, and he's an outspoken leader. And he knows how to create jobs and successful businesses. He has bold ideas, and he speaks truth to power. He is a man who will get this country on the right track, who believes in peace through strength and will protect America against radical Islamic terrorists who seek to destroy our nation. Our country has united time and time again on our core values of freedom and individual liberty and justice for all people, the principles which made our country great and which it was founded upon. And Donald Trump unapologetically stands for those values. We are one in our belief that America must address the national debt, not by increasing taxes, but by increasing opportunity. We are one in our belief that we must protect our borders and promote fair trade that puts American workers first. And we are one in our belief that we must stand with our allies like Israel, a beacon of freedom and democracy in the Middle East. And we are one in our belief that we must respect and honor our military, our veterans, and law enforcement whose sacrifice keeps us safe and free. And we are one in our belief that every life is precious, regardless of race or class, including the lives of the unborn children. Now, as a party, we don't agree 100% on everything. That's okay. We don't have to. As Ronald Reagan once said, the person who agrees with you 80% of the time is a friend and an ally. We invite every American who believes in these principles and longs for an end to division and wants to make America one again to join us in electing Donald Trump as President of the United States. Thank you, and may God bless you all. God bless America.
Coming up, Peter Thiel, a Silicon Valley entrepreneur, billionaire, the first openly gay man to address a Republican convention since 2000. Stay with us for more convention coverage, including Ivanka Trump's introduction of her father. She'll set the stage for the most important speech he has ever given. We'll be right back. We are awaiting Donald Trump's big speech tonight. His attempt to close perhaps the biggest deal ever, capping the Republican convention by accepting the party's presidential nomination. He, of course, will be introduced by his daughter, Ivanka Trump. We're standing by to hear both of these important speeches on the closing night of this convention. I want to go to our Dana Bashers on the convention floor with a special guest. Dana?
Anderson, that's right. I'm here with the former House Speaker, Newt Gingrich. You spoke last night. Tonight, we're going to have the nominee. From what we have seen and heard, it seems like it's going to be more sort of a little bit dark and Nixonian as opposed to optimistic and Reagan-esque.
Well,
is that right?
No, I don't know yet. First of all, I think Ivanka will do a great job introducing him and will be very positive about her father and what he brings to bear. I think, second, that it's very likely that he is going to give us a vision of where he wants to take America. So it'll probably be three parts. Biography, here's why I could be president. Problems, here's why we need to change course. And then solutions, here's what we'll do. And that's my guess, just having talked to them. They've spent a lot of time on this speech. And it's a very serious, fairly lengthy speech.
Is there enough discussion here that would appeal to people who are already are not in his corner, independents, voters who he will need in order to win the White House?
Well, I think, modestly, that my speech on national security, Mike Pence's speech last night, laying out a vision of where we should go. Don Jr. did an amazing job the other night. He got huge response and explaining positive things. And I think the real burden is tonight on Trump.
I've seen a few Never Trump buttons being passed around tonight for the very first time. I've seen some Never Trump buttons being passed around for the first time tonight. Not everybody is on board even here. Most people are, but not everybody. Never everybody is.
Well, I read an article about the fact that there were relatively few demonstrators here because they're all going to Philadelphia. I would guess that if you want to look at relative tension, you saw last night how fiercely this convention feels about Donald Trump when Cruz acted what this convention.
Well, that was going to be my last question to you. You have said that you had to change your speech on the fly because of the reaction that Ted Cruz had. What did you think of his speech?
Well, I changed it because the delegates wanted closure on what I thought was a foolish speech. Cruz sets up criteria for voting for president, which only Trump meets, and then doesn't go the next step. And I think for a guy who thinks he's a serious man, it was a remarkably silly project.
He doubled down on it this morning.
Oh, I know he did, but that's just a sign that the Cruz that the Senate has learned to dislike is just sharing himself with the nation.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Anderson, back to you.
Dana, thanks very much. Again, waiting upcoming speeches, but let's have more with our panel. Again, Ivanka Trump, a major chance for her tonight to reach out to potentially, undecided voters, independents out there, and for Donald Trump as well.
I think she has amazing, favorable numbers. On my radio program, people call constantly who are not favorably disposed toward the father. They all speak well of her. Everyone named Trump has delivered a tremendous speech in this convention thus far. They've all had poise. They've all had dignity. I question some of the content. I hope, to Gloria's point, that she throws in some of the anecdotal, because that's the only element that's been lacking thus far.
Yeah, and I think the juxtaposition of Ivanka Trump, somebody who everyone really likes, is interested in the way that people would tend to be interested in the kids of rich and famous people. It'll be interesting to see if she she's going to counterbalance her father, but does her father and what he says sort of undermine whatever work she's going to try to do to soften him with those stories. I think that juxtaposition will be interesting.
Yeah, it's like it seems from what the Speaker Gingrich was saying and from what we hear that they're sort of outsourcing the humanity project to Ivanka so that Trump can get to the main project, which is to hit this law and order theme very, very hard.
I think we have always had presidential candidates that for some reason or another we feel the need to humanize. It would be nice to get a candidate that didn't need to be humanized by his wife or daughter or spouse at some point. So I think Ivanka will do that. But then I do agree with David. We're going to take a turn, it seems to me, and Donald Trump has to explain to voters why we should have change. Because Hillary Clinton is the third term of Barack Obama, so he's going to have to paint a dark picture about why the country needs to move in a different direction.
Can I just say a word about this project, this law and order project as a political exercise? We've been hearing discussion about these married white women who he needs to target. And you do get the sense that there is a feeling that perhaps fear would be an organizing tactic here, that it might be helpful to play that card with those voters.
We've got to take a short break. More ahead again as we wait Ivanka Trump, Donald Trump, and others. We'll be right back.